everyone, it's Jessika Phillips with Magnet Marketers, and I'm excited this week to have April Heavens-Woodcock join me. April is the Chief Buzz Officer from Touching Clients, a digital firm that specializes in strategic online marketing development for businesses, and she's passionate about helping businesses grow their bottom line with effective tools. She is speaking regularly on social media, email marketing, and marketing all around the East Coast and beyond. So welcome, April.
Thanks, Jessica, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So today we're talking about the power of three, just kind of summarizing some things for small businesses. I know you and your firm work a lot with small businesses and helping them with their social media and online marketing as a whole. So we want to talk about the power of three. So what are three things that you could see businesses doing, or what they must be doing to be a magnet versus being a bullhorn? We talk a lot about drawing clients in, strategically versus just broadcasting your message out to try to attract them that way. So what are three things that small businesses must be doing today to become a magnet?
I think the small business today, just in general for marketing, has changed, and diversification is key. So, small businesses, I think number one is online. A lot of small businesses, whether they're local Main Street or they're a service kind of industry, they definitely need to have an online presence and really have a personal branding attached to that. So that messaging from a website to getting into social media. I know small businesses know they need to be there, but being there on the right platforms for their business to get that exposure. Secondly, I think to be a magnet, they need to be who they are, really show their personality and what they put out there. Because I think a lot of businesses, they'll buy stock photos, or they'll put a presentation out there on a piece of marketing collateral or on their website, or however they're going out to reach their audience. But what they're not doing is they're not personalizing it, because people do business with who they know, like, and trust. So that's a big component of that. And then as the third one, I would say, really wrapping into, I think small businesses today still need to do some networking in person. Although we have this wonderful online network of people, you and I know we've met online, right? And we're going to meet in person at a networking event in a few weeks. So that's awesome. And those personal connections are still really important. So I think that although small businesses know they are in learning, they need to be online, that personal connection is really still an important piece to be a magnet to getting their audience and growing their bottom line.
Yeah, and I think you hit on three really good pieces of information there. Like, first, choosing the right platform, because I think it's so deceiving when they're this buzz comes out about a new social network. You're like, oh, we got to jump on it and just post the same message that we just posted on three other social platforms, and just carry it over to another one. And you're talking about, personalization, and you can't really get personalized then when you're spreading yourself that thin, I guess, on all those social networks. So how can people choose the right social platform, or how can small businesses choose? How do they know which one's the best one for them?
Sure. That's a great question. It really comes down to target audience, understanding who your target audience is, which can sometimes be a challenge for startup businesses. So one of the big things that I do with in my trainings and when I'm working with clients is really trying to define who that target audience is by age, by income, by location. And if they do have kind of a wide, diverse audience, really kind of narrowing it down to the largest audience that they think they touch, and starting with that social platform to start with in their business. And one of the biggest things that I say is that, it's everyone thinks they need to do it all, but do one and do it really well and get better at it, and then add to that social media mix, because nothing is worse than having all these social media platforms, like you said, out there, and they're not, there's nobody home. They're the same message, or they haven't updated it, and that's really not good for your business. So be the leader in your industry by doing one platform and doing it well, but really starting with that target audience as your focus of learning. And, with anything in marketing, you have to test things, you have to play with it. So, and the biggest thing is consistency and time. I can't say that enough. There's no quick fix to marketing. It's a slow and steady wins the race kind of a thing.
Not
in
the you
social
build
media.
it and they will come kind of idea.
Well, if we're lucky enough, that might happen, but
Right.
I don't know. I'm still slow and steady trying to win the race myself, so.
Because you mentioned it too, like nobody's home kind of mentality, because it's one part to just put it out there. We always talk a lot about there has to be somebody engaging too, and not just putting your own message out, but also engaging with others, right? Like that's a huge piece of it. So, but how do they add that extra personal touch then? What are some tips that you give to add and not buy the stock photos or do the canned kind of messaging approach? How do they add that personalization? What's some tips that you could give them, small businesses?
Yeah, I think, in the age that we're in with smartphones, it definitely helps us connect more and taking pictures in the now. So using those pictures, like we took a picture before we started here today.
Like, snapshot.
And using those pictures. So like if you're a plumber, for example, and Facebook you're using for your local search, you could do before and after. You're there, you're already in it. It's just getting used to that routine because that in and of itself is marketing. Those pictures resonate with people more than, oh, there's Mr. Plumber under the sink with that stock photo. So I think it's just a matter of setting up a strategy of looking at where you are on the course of a day, what you're doing, and saying, oh, you know what, this would be great for social media. Now, no one really cares about your lunch all the time that you're having, but really what you're doing. Take a picture if you're willing to. Some people get funny about, oh, I don't want to take a picture with a client, but, look at what you're doing in relationships, networking events. If you're training to be, be more knowledgeable in your field, use that. You show people what you're doing, and that's how you connect. Also, questions that come in. We talk to our clients all the time, and they're asking us questions. Those are great things to use in content because chances are there's 5 other people that have the same exact question. So I think really it's a lot easier to bring in your personality than people think. And I think sometimes people are intimidated by it because they're like, oh, it's very personal. But at the same time, what you do in your small business is very personal. And that's why you do what you do. So I think it's just a matter of kind of going outside of your comfort zone and putting it part of your routine, that you're taking photos or, because you have the ability to be mobile on social or in your office, take a picture. It's somebody's birthday, an employee, take a picture and share it. That in and of itself, I can tell you, we have a client that we just posted for a birthday in the office. That gets more likes, more comments than a lot of the other kind of value-added content that we provide for them. So it does make a huge difference.
And I know there's like several tools out there, like Canva, we mention all the time, like you can take those pictures and add those tips or happy birthday or whatever and post it on there, because I think a lot of small businesses, they got to remember that people are using these social platforms. Sometimes they're competing with friends and family members. So, I mean, those kind of messages then with a picture of somebody saying happy birthday, it's what stands out more than sometimes those other marketing messages, and it adds that human side to it, like you said.
Absolutely.
Connect with them. So
and cool. Canva is a great tool. I love Canva. I don't know how often you use Canva. Like
every day,
right?
It's made it godsend. Yeah.
And Canva, I think that again, as you don't have to be a graphic designer, it has some really great little templates that you can go in and create cool graphics for your business, and you'll be pleasantly surprised at how well you can create a nice graphic that's visually appealing for your business.
They make it very, very, very easy, thankfully.
They do. Yeah. They do. Exactly.
So what are 3 things, though, that's on the flip side that are not working or that businesses should stop doing now that we've all learned some lessons and we're like, okay, now it's time that we stop doing these mistakes?
So I think that's a great question. I think, overall, I think it depends on sometimes the industry because, like traditional marketing, and you have direct mail campaigns, that's definitely died down. And I do think that for some businesses, it's just not, it's not a good investment of your finances, but where there's some other businesses that it might be effective. I would say for local, local service-based businesses, I would stop doing direct mail campaigns, look more towards email marketing campaigns where you can stay in touch in their inbox and save yourself a huge amount of money. The other thing that I would say small businesses need to stop doing is switching around all the time. This is something that I see all the time, the next greatest thing. And we have, everybody is out there making a living, doing what they do best. And I respect that. So, but I know like even with my office building, we finally had to put up a no solicitation sign, right? Because everybody's coming in and they're trying to sell the new greatest and best, whether it's a customer relational management tool or the phone's ringing. And one of the things that I really think businesses is just steer the course. Try something, stick with it. A lot of times softwares are not easy to use in the beginning. Things are not, it takes time to learn it. And then you can usually make an assessment within 6 months if it's working, 6 months to a year. But I see so many businesses will be like, oh yeah, I'm going to try this. 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 And it's that overwhelm. And then the other thing is social media. Pick one and do it well. Stop jumping in and being like, oh, guess what? I'm on Twitter, but I've never tweeted, or I'm on, Pinterest. I love Pinterest, but guess what? I don't know how to use it. And setting up these multiple profiles because it's really definitely doing your brand harm. It's that dead website, 404 error, and somebody goes there. Guess what? Nobody's home. So that's really, I think, a key thing of businesses need to stop definitely over socializing, going on those platforms that they're not using.
Right. You hit on some good points. I mean, with the direct mail, it's not to say some direct mail isn't effective, but you have to have a large budget in order to do it. And if you're going to do it, we always say like tie it into something that you're already doing to make it stick or make it creative and stand out. Because I always ask clients, what do you do when you get direct mail pieces in? It goes straight to the round file. Usually you don't even look at it. So I say invest your money maybe in sending out cards, something that somebody's going to open instead or a smaller budget and do it more effectively. But it takes a lot of money to do even television commercials and some of the other
radio is very expensive. Sure.
Yeah, you have to have a huge budget in order to play. So
yes.
So you hit on some really good points there. And the software, we talked about that too. It's like sometimes I think people think it's kind of like the gym membership. Like if you buy it, you're automatically going to lose weight. It doesn't work that way. You have to like stick with it and go there and invest your time in making what you have work. And they can do that. So,
and that's not to say you're not going to have hiccups. I mean, we are, I'm sure you have the same mindset, but for us, we don't recommend softwares unless we've used it ourselves for a while to clients. That's not to say we don't have a dentist that uses Dentrix. I'm not a dentist. I don't use Dentrix. Dentrix is good. But even that, one of the clients just upgraded, spent a huge amount of money in upgrading the software. But unfortunately, they are tied to a consultant having to come in and train them. So we do monthly services. We're like, listen, we can probably help you figure this out. Just steer the course. Don't give up. There's some great tools that are incorporated in here. So just keeping consistent, I think, is key. Anything within marketing, keeping consistent, as you know. It's not a one-hit wonder of things. Although maybe once in a while you have that $1 million idea that gets you a lot of dough.
Right. So what are some apps or some tools that you can recommend then that will help small businesses do these things well? Do you have any of your favorites that will really help small businesses in social media and keeping up?
Sure. I think everybody has a personal preference. I think for staying in touch, client retention, and fostering relationships, I'm really a huge fan of email marketing. I'm a huge fan of Constant Contact. That's not to say that I don't use MailChimp or that we don't use other softwares for our clients. But what I like about Constant Contact for small business is they have great templates, so you don't have to have this huge creative background. You can easily create your own template, and their customer service, honestly, for small business people that are out there, a lot of times they're doing their email at 9:00 at night after their workday, right? They're their marketing team, and they have customer support that's available. It works. It's not 24/7, but by far, I want to say it's midnight, and then they're off in the middle of the night. They have chat, and if you're stuck for 5 minutes, I always tell people call, and they will help you. And their customer service, in and of itself, makes the application, if there's a kink in the road, worth it. Some other applications that I like, and just from the smartphone perspective, when you're using social media, I like WordSwag. swag.
I love it. Yes. It makes us look so talented with
Yes,
designing.
yes.
Yeah.
So Word Swag is one of those tools where you can add text to images from your smartphone and put it on social media. So that's kind of a cool thing, especially where you're really trying to represent your brand and tell your story on social media. So that's a favorite of mine. And then productivity wise, I'm an Apple user. Are you an iPhone fan?
Love everything Apple. Yes.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
I saw that. Right.
Yeah.
So, I think for me, the biggest thing with one of the things that I learned early on is that as you become busier, really that whole calendar. So it doesn't necessarily need to be on an iPhone, but any calendar system, Gmail does a great job of linking to your phone, to your computer, your office calendar. Whatever you do, having that calendar is gold. I think I used to less and less, I'd write paper, and I still have I actually still have a written day planner. So I'm a little old school too, for my to-dos and stuff. But the calendar applications like the Gmail, and then I really like iCalendar where it syncs with your computer and keeps everybody kind of knowing the know, makes a huge difference in terms of getting work done, getting to places on time. So that's one of my favorite, and that's actually like my gold. I mean, I check that more than anything. So
I was actually looking at my calendar here. There's one that's called CalenMob, that it is that Google Calendar that you can put on your iPhone that syncs, like if you have multiple team members. You can put like all of them on there, and that's what I use, and I love it. But it syncs with your Google Calendar. But then if you have like a big team that you want to see everybody else's too, it's awesome.
Sure,
so
you'll have to send it to me.
Yeah, but that's a good point, because if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing or where you're supposed to be, you're not going to get it done.
Right.
So those are three really good apps. So another question, just as we wrap up here, I mean, it sounds like, small business owners, they wear a lot of hats, but this is one that they definitely cannot ignore, is their marketing. They can't be so busy doing the business that they don't tell others about it and continue marketing. So what would you recommend? I mean, there's back and forth conversations on if they hire an agency or if they do it in-house, or if they get an intern or whatever to do it. What is your recommendation or feedback to that?
So one of the things whenever I'm doing social media training with clients, I think the big thing is that you really need to include that as a budget, whether it's a budget of your time, because I think as businesses grow with social media, they need to plan for it. So if you're doing it yourself to start, I think that's great, because one of the big things that, like, even when we were working with clients, is I want them to be educated on what we're doing, because they need to, as a business owner, understand social media. They can't be blindsided and say, oh, you know what, I have somebody that does this on Facebook and I don't know anything, because that's where you run into a problem. Right. Even though you wear many hats, you do need to learn the social media component at some level so you can manage it successfully for a team member, if you're managing a team member. So I think do-it-yourselfers, I think, is a great place to start. Right. But when you're doing do-it-yourself, manage your time. Watch your time, put that down, record it, so you can say, okay, as your business starts to make money and you're pulling leads from social media, put that bucket of money into some place where you can eventually hire somebody. Right. And when you look to hire somebody, I think one of the big things is you want to really look and ask questions like, how are you going to represent my voice? You want to make sure that it's not canned content, that there's personalization to it, and that somebody is really going to take the time to research your brand, your industry, to be knowledgeable enough to talk for you and speak for you on social media. Now, that's not to say there's kind of a getting to know you period, because I do think there is that. But you want to make sure that if you hire somebody, that they truly understand your industry and can voice your voice pretty clearly, and that they're available. Because I've seen people hire social media agencies where they can post and there's messages have come in and nobody's responded to them. So that's the other thing. You want to make sure what's their response time of handling it. I think interns are great. The only thing that I would be mindful of, we've had interns. Have you had interns, Jessica?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Had interns,
Okay.
yes.
So interns are great. The only thing that I'll say is that I would make sure that you look for an intern that has some kind of business experience in terms of, even if it's just in the classroom, because I think if they're an English major, they're not going to understand the business component. I think that, that real world experience. And so interns can be helpful. I do recommend not hiring a high school kid to represent your brand. I think you really need to look for somebody that has some real life experiences that can understand, especially in small business. Small business is different than big brand corporate. It's just, I definitely think there's a huge differential between the two. So making sure you find somebody that can represent you well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And we've even had interns that we don't give them full access to the social accounts, but we have them submit some content, do some research, maybe help with some of the Canva images, those kind of things first, and build them up and give them some feedback first, because you don't want to give keys to your business basically to someone that you don't know yet can handle it. It's scary.
And that's a great point. Great point, because we use Hootsuite. I'm not sure if you use Hootsuite.
Yep.
Okay.
Sprout Social actually now.
Okay. So you can control that, and that's a great point. Is that they add content, they've done research, and then we go in and approve it and make changes before it actually goes out for a client if we're using it, if we're scheduling out content. So that's a huge thing. And I think the biggest thing, if you're bringing in an intern, you definitely need to know social media a little bit before you bring in that intern, because you don't want that intern running your social media component.
Yeah. Next thing you know, you're on Snapchat and you don't know what's happening.
Tumblr and all those great places. Kick,
Exactly. Well, I think you've shared some very awesome tips. So thank you so much. Anything else you want to leave the viewers with?
I think as a small business owner myself, I think one of the biggest things, and we do the same thing within our own marketing, is just really be consistent. Consistency in whatever you do is going to make a world of difference. If you start an email campaign where you're sending a monthly newsletter, be consistent. People will notice when it goes away, or if you stop a month. It takes time, and be patient. I think that's the other thing. We talked a little bit about it earlier. We're not, the kind of the one hit, I'm going to put an ad in the yellow book and the phone's going to ring off the hook. It takes time. But I believe, I know that consistency will make the difference in a successful social media campaign, as any marketing campaign that you do within your business. It'll make a world of difference.
Absolutely. Now, how can people find you if they have questions?
Sure. Thanks. You can find me. Our website is www.touchingclients.com. You can also find me on Facebook, facebook.com/touchingclients, and at Touching Clients on Twitter. And if you're on Instagram, I'm Tales from a Momtrepreneur. So
that's awesome.
Me there.
Yeah. I'll include that in the show notes so people can connect with you. And
awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been great.